So rupee is touching nearly 87. So that definitely is bad.
This time what the finance minister said has proved to be true.
So if dollar is strengthening, rupee will get weakened.
This impact, we might not see it, but the government will start raising taxes.
Zerodha, being the India's biggest broker, would benefit a lot from this.
If someone was doing an SIP of 10,000 rupees into Nifty 500 for the last 21 months, they would be seeing negative returns today. These broking companies go to think about increasing their brokerage.
And if you're in FNO trading, the brokerage is 20 rupees can become 3x.
Nithin Kamath actually came out and tweeted saying that with whatever is happening around in the market, their revenues could get hit by 40 to 50%. That's nearly 4,000, 5,000 crores.
Angel One, their Q3 result is out and their net profits are down by 35%.
Who was Hindenburg Research and what did they actually do?
So they are activists primarily and they are short sellers secondarily.
They were termed as a backstabber. They went against Elon Musk.
They are shutting down after they published strong reports on Adani.
In today's episode of the Aftermarket Podcast, our 10th straight weekly podcast ever, we're going to discuss 3 interesting stories. The first one is talking all about why the markets fell this week and everything you need to understand about rupee's devaluation. When rupee reached the value of 86, FIIs have been heavy sellers in the market. We want to break all the myths and educate you really well what could happen to the stock market based on rupee's price movements. The second topic is about a silent earnings report which came out, which is Angel One's Q3 report. In that, profits have dropped 35% compared to last quarter, and it has led to a larger speculation that is the industry going to increase their brokerage soon, and will it impact you as a trader? So we'll discuss all the possibilities here. It will affect you if you're an FNO trader, even if you're taking equity delivery trades, and in some cases, even if you're buying mutual funds as well. And the third topic is the death of a giant killer. Hindenburg Research, who had accused Adani of financial mispractices more than a year ago, they have officially shut down. So we'll discuss a lot of things here, starting with what was Hindenburg Research actually founded for? What was their mentality when they were going against Adani or even the Elon Musk of the world? As always, another value-packed aftermarket podcast episode. Make sure you watch till the very end. And also subscribe to our Clips channel if you haven't already, where we'll be posting bite-sized content from all of these videos. So without further ado, let's get started. The markets on Monday opened with a huge gap down and crossed the level that we had been waiting for, which is the election day high. Around 23,350, it got broken. I know by now when we're discussing it, it has tried to regain back that level, but not successful yet. We'll have to wait for it.
I mean, just look at the candles. There are 3 small doji candles. It was a gap up opening, but again, there is a sell-off coming. Those candles absolutely don't look bullish, or there is no strength in the markets yet. So I still feel there is a bearishness could continue in the markets.
Yeah, that is what investors are worried about. Why is the market falling right now? And I think a lot of people want to know about it. It's our first story of the week. But before that, let's formally introduce everyone for the podcast. This is our 10th Aftermarket Podcast episode, guys, without missing a single week, right? And my name is Ajay. This is Nihal.
Hi.
And this is Sharik Shamsin,
Hi.
CEO and co-founder of MarketFeed. So let's get started with the first story. Why is the market falling now?
To be very honest, this is not a topic that I'd like to talk about on our podcast, because whenever Nifty moves down even a little bit, everyone on media starts talking about, hey, what's happening? Why are the markets falling? And I honestly don't think that we should be doing that all the time, at least on MarketFeed and the Aftermarket Podcast here. But this time it's interesting because one reason why the markets are falling is something we've already discussed in the podcast earlier, which is because of a lot of the larger negative trend in the market. Indian markets, if you see, Nifty is on a larger downside trend. Even the global markets are weak. So that is already established.
Yeah, corporate results are also not great, and that affecting the market. I think we discussed it in episode 6 or something.
We can put up the link here.
Yeah.
We did discuss about in length as to the larger general downtrend which we are seeing in the market today. But this week, last week specifically, if you ask me why did the market fall, there is a specific reason. And I think the first story should not be about why the markets are falling, but rather should be about the specific reason, which is rupee losing its value. So rupee, if you see, actually is touching nearly 87.
In my head, rupee is anchored somewhere around 70 still, right? I can't digest. And I know someone older than me might say that they
Okay.
still think rupee is valued at 50 or...
That's where I'll come in, a person older than you. So, a very funny story. Back in college, when I got interested in startups and entrepreneurship. So, because in the world of startups, you hear everything in millions of dollars, like
Yeah.
funding and valuation, everything is in millions of dollars. So, this is back when I was in college. So, whenever I used to hear about startup related stuff, because it's on millions of dollars, I wanted to easily learn about it. So I learned this: $1 million is 6 crore rupees. Which was INR was back at 60 rupees back then. So again, for context, so now it is at 87. So
Yeah.
that definitely is bad. That is definitely a trigger for markets to do bad, or the sentiments to be even worse from where it was, which was already bad. So I think that is something we can talk about as a first story, where we can maybe talk a bit more about why is rupee losing its value? What is its impact on the market? What should market participants think about? A lot of those things are something we can talk about this.
Yeah,
as
and
a
when
first
we
story.
talk about rupee hitting the all-time low against the dollar, like rightly you said, almost 87, there are even speculations moving around saying maybe next 5-6 months, the rupee could even further devalue and go down and probably even touch 90, 95. There are so many numbers that
Yeah.
have been thrown around. But again, we hope that wouldn't happen anyway.
Now, that is where I want to really put out this learning aspect or element where maybe we can discuss so that viewers can also learn as to why is the market reacting because rupee is going up. So what is the connection with rupee's movement with market is something maybe we can discuss in the first story.
So if you look historically, rupee has fallen by 3.5% every single year after it opened for trading in 1985. And for an FII or a foreign entity to make money in Indian investments or the Indian market, first they have to make more returns than this rupee devaluation. Right? But one more thing that you have to understand is there is something that is called as a US Treasury bond, which is known to be the world's most safest asset. And that asset is now giving a yield of 4.6%. So Indian markets have to give 4.6, which is a US markets return, plus 3.5%, which is a rupee's devaluation, at least 7 to 8% for FIIs to remain invested here. So they're pulling out their money from the Indian markets with the fear that rupee falling further could be an issue for them.
Yeah, and here, just for clarification, maybe rupee will not fall by 3.5% every year as a fixed percentage.
Yeah.
Some year it could be 10%, some year we have seen in 2013, 18, also odd years where the rupee fell more than 15%. So
2018,
Yeah.
2018 is when rupee fell by more than 15%.
Yeah. So those years could be there, and some years it could fall less. So the average turns out to be 3.5%. That is what Ajay would have said.
Yeah, let me collect all the thoughts here. So this is very simple. So when rupee is weakening, that is its value is going up. When it's weakening, India becomes less of a good investment opportunity. So FIIs who normally pump in a lot of money into the Indian equity market, one, for them this will be a less attractive investment opportunity. So they'll put in less money. Two, when there are even more attractive options available in other markets, even in the US, even a very stable investment option like the
US
Treasury
government
yield.
yield,
treasury bonds, so
Treasury
they'll
bond.
pull out money from India and go there.
Yeah.
So it's more like when rupee is weakening, there is an opportunity cost for the fund that foreign institutional investors can invest with. So they are using that fund somewhere else. So that is not supporting our equity markets. So our equity markets will
Yeah.
do bad.
So-
So this is the overall gist, I would say.
Okay.
But that's where, so the entire thing actually, if you think, is revolving around if rupee is weakening. Right, so I know this is a topic which could get boring, so we should try to make it less boring. But the entire thing is pivoting around if rupee is weakening us when all these things happen. So that's where I think maybe we should discuss about why or when does rupee weaken.
And that's a good, interesting discussion, I
Yeah.
feel, because we talked about the effects of rupee weakening, but then
Correct.
people still want to understand why that underlying is moving like that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So one simple logic is if dollar strengthens, because the demand for dollars is increasing for multiple reasons. It could be maybe Trump winning in, the US, getting back into the power and being again the powerhouse of the world. So when globally all the other countries and economies are bullish on dollar and they feel that dollar will dominate the whole world again like it used to, obviously the demand is increasing, and that will devalue other currencies to some
So
extent.
that is very correct. That's point number one. That is one reason why rupee is weakening, because rupee's value is nothing but it is compared to dollar. So
Yeah.
if dollar is strengthening, rupee will get weakened. So that's very, very rightly said. So that's where I'll put point number two, where rupee can weaken because it is actually getting weakened, right? So if you think about rupee's value, which is near 87 today, when you talk about it, the price is also discovered because of supply demand. So while dollar, when it gets strengthened, this could go bad, but this could also go bad because there is no demand for INR. So if you are exporting less and importing a lot, INR is of very less demand in the global markets, and that could also be a reason why rupee is getting weakened. So yeah.
So maybe
Okay.
this is where the Nirmala Sitharaman's quote of rupee is not falling, dollar is strengthening. Where maybe
Yeah.
just dollar is getting stronger, and we, even without doing anything, it is just getting devalued.
Yeah. So theoretically, these two reasons can be the reasons. It could be dollar strengthening or us weakening. Both can happen. Both could be reasons. So I think that's where maybe we could also discuss about what is actually happening here.
Yeah.
This time when rupee is weakening, why is it happening? Is it because of dollar strengthening, or is it actually because of us messing up?
This time, what the finance minister said has proved to be true, which is the dollar is strengthening across the world. If you're looking at the dollar index and trying to gauge the strength of the dollar, it is only increasing. So every global emerging economy, their currencies are suffering, and India is not that bad if you're looking at it. So two major reasons. Again, one, Trump and all the positivity around Trump coming into power. And two, because the US is now a very hot, amazing destination to invest in, with the US Treasury yield giving 4.6%, which is, I think, the highest since 2007. Right? So a lot of money is flowing there.
Yeah, so whatever Nirmala Sitharaman says, normally she gets trolled for it, but this time around it seems like that is not the case. There
Yeah.
is some merit to saying that dollar is actually getting strengthened because Trump really wants to make America great again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where we should discuss what are the real effects of having a weak rupee. Okay, we established that we're in a time frame where rupee has weakened, but what can happen to us? What can happen to the market? Let's try to
The
understand that.
actual impact on one individual.
Yeah.
Yes, one last thing I think, again, apart from being a stock market investor, something that I can think about is India imports almost all of its crude. 88% of our crude is being imported.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people get this, but the impact of crude oil on our life is huge. So people normally think that, hey, fuel prices might go up. It's not just fuel prices, or the impact of fuel prices is not just when you go to fill your car or bike at a petrol station, right? But the impact is huge. I mean, anything and everything that you look around has some impact given by crude oil. So all the plastic materials around you that you see, crude oil is part of its manufacturing.
Yep.
Or even if you think about, say, the vegetables or normal things that you consume, all of those things have to be transported.
Yeah.
And for them to be transported, those trucks have to be fueled again with fuel.
So the larger inflation of the country could increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So so that's one thing, one large point I wanted to bring
But
up.
while that is a negative thing, there is some positive angle for when the dollar strengthens is when we export stuff.
Yes.
And in the exports, we are the largest exporter of pharma. We already know that. And our IT exports are
services,
huge.
yes.
So when dollar is strengthening, our textile industries, our IT industries, pharma industries, all these could benefit a lot.
So good for anyone who's trying to export, bad for anyone who's trying to import.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
while
I
we
think-
always mention pharma and IT getting benefits from such things, there are influencers or YouTubers because all these YouTubers, the YouTube AdSense money come in dollars, so all the YouTubers are also currently happy.
Yeah.
But
There is
again,
a-
one problem with the dollar strengthening, again, I spoke about the positive, but again, a negative angle also could be when we are, taking loans in dollars. So maybe students going abroad for studying. So people who are taking care of their kids studying in abroad, and they have to send money from India to US.
Yeah.
That would become lot expensive for
But
them.
that's the flip side is also very interesting because again, India receives a lot of remittances, which is there are a lot of Indians living abroad
Yeah.
in foreign countries, earning and sending that money back to India to take care of their loved ones back here.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
those are people who would actually benefit from this.
Yeah, so I think, again, to put into perspective, importers, not so great.
Yeah.
Exporters, amazing time to be in the market, right? So, but one thing, I just wanted to clarify on what Nihal was saying earlier, which is loans to be repaid,
Yeah.
right? So, usually the governments and even a lot of private companies, they take money from international banks. So recently also, Reliance had a huge loan which they took out from a Japanese bank because they have very competitive interest rates. But what is the problem here? All the payments will have to be done in an international currency. So if the currency of our country is weakening, our payments which are going out to all those countries, including the government's loans, their interest payments will be higher, right? So while we'll definitely see the first-hand impact of crude oil prices going up, we'll feel the pain in a day-to-day basis. This impact, we might not see it, but the government will start raising taxes. They'll start trying to make more money from the citizens if it happens.
Yeah, so these are all points around what could happen to a normal citizen if rupee is losing its value. But again, hey, this is the Aftermarket Podcast. We should be discussing what are the impacts on a stock market investor. What could happen to the stock market because rupee is losing its value?
So currently the FIs huge selling that we are seeing, the opposite side who's actually supporting the Indian markets and saving it from crashing is DIs.
DIs are all the mutual funds and your insurance companies buying in bulk from the Indian stock market.
And they are getting all the funding from the SIPs that we do as retailers and individuals. But if the rupee continues to weaken, FIs are anyway going to sell, and retailers also will lose trust. Maybe they'll lose confidence on Indian markets and they'll stop putting in their money through SIPs and lump sum, and DIs wouldn't be able to support the markets then. Then I think we are just near 12-13% down, and that is where a panic situation would come and maybe we'll fall further down.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point, right? Retailers losing confidence in the market is maybe it could get real at some point of time. So after 2020, everyone has been on a euphoria. Market is mostly only going up. There was some muted time in between, but then we haven't seen large falls, right? So there was this very interesting data that I saw last day. If someone was doing an SIP of 10,000 rupees into Nifty 500 for the last 21 months, they would be seeing negative returns today.
That is 2 years of investing.
Almost 2 years.
And still seeing negative returns. Think about their mindset.
Yeah, so I think time is coming where this euphoria is coming to an end. Like now when you say if FIIs continue to sell, if the market is again to tank another 5-10% here, a lot of these retailers will start seeing consistent red in their portfolio, and that is a time where their confidence could go down, and this record SIPs that we are seeing today, 26-27,000 crores a month, that could stop, that could go down. So
I think it would be a good test for the Indian retail participant, right? Are they able to hold when it's actually required? When the market is in trouble, when their portfolio is going to red, still are they able to invest like they promised to do? See, everyone who started getting into SIPs, they have this concept, even if the market falls, we'll continue to invest. Now, let's see if such a situation happens. Let's see if they live up to their words. Okay, so to summarize what could happen to the market from here, from Nihal, I understood that, okay, market could be negatively affected because of FIA selling, but DIAs are protecting it. On one side, we talked about inflation increasing, right? So inflation increasing, as we've already discussed, it's not great for the market because companies and the earnings of companies, that will start going down, and again corporate earnings going down will result in worse share prices.
So while we are discussing all of these factors of rupee devaluing, rupee falling, FI selling lot of money, DIs won't be able to support the market will crash, but still this is just over glorifying or creating that panic.
Let's try to put things into perspective so that viewers understand it really well.
It is just not media hype and all of that. Let's just talk actual figures and facts and what really our investors should think about. So like Ajay said, Indian rupee has been devaluing or falling at a rate of 3.5% average. So that has been happening from 1985.
Exactly.
But still India has growing. Our economy was booming. Our industries are growing. Our exports were 2x or 3x in the last 2-3 years?
Yeah. So from 2017 to now, it's more than 3x.
Yeah. So even though the rupee is devaluing and emerging markets, even though our currency is falling, the economy can still flourish. So I don't think there is nothing really worrisome that one should feel and pull out money or be in a panic state.
Yeah, that's where this data point is also very interesting. So while you say the average at which rupee was falling was 3.5%, even in the last 1 year, if you see rupee has weakened only by 4%.
Yeah.
Okay. That is kind of in line.
It is just normal.
It's very much normal as to what has happened. Maybe the last week there was a larger weakening.
Yeah, I think the
that's
last
why we are talking about it.
1-2 weeks, it moved a bit fast, but then on average, it's fine. Right?
So the point here is this is nothing, not a trigger to panic, trigger to worry. We are discussing this as a story because this is a good learning opportunity. We get to discuss about Rupee's valuation and its impact on the markets and its impact on our regular lives as well, right? So that's a larger point. In no way trying to press the panic button in no ways.
So now that we understood what's happening in the rupee market right now, let's try to understand, while rupee is falling, what should investors do right now?
So this is a time where investors can appreciate the beauty of investing into gold as an asset class, right? Because as we know, gold is priced in US dollars. And because it is priced in US dollars, rupee weakening or dollar strengthening, that benefit you can get because your gold prices will
Automatically
increase.
Nice.
And we always know if equity markets are going down, gold acts as an hedge and it will move up anyway.
Yes, plus the rupee dollar benefit
dollar
also you're
benefit.
getting from gold. So that is a very clear point coming out again. Gold again is one among our favorite investment asset classes. This point specifically that gold is priced in US dollar, helping us hedge against rupee weakening itself is another great point, making it amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will do the mistake of investing into FDs, pulling out their money from the market and investing into FDs because they're worried of the market falling. But they have to understand, if the market is falling because of rupee weakening, then it's not a really great idea to put your money into FD because you'll have the same effect. You have to go into gold investing there.
Also diversifying your portfolio by investing into US equities, right? That also makes sense at this point of time because there you're investing into something which is obviously priced in dollars.
Yeah.
So I think mostly it's just market being the market. I think last week it was HMPV. This week it is Forex. The upcoming week it will be Trump swearing in. After that we have Nirmala Sitharaman's next budget.
Yeah.
Right? So
and then results coming today and over the weekend. So all of those could also be
Reliance,
talked about.
I think ICICI, Infosys, all of their results coming out. So I think it's mostly going to be just drama. If the market is in a downtrend, it needs some really strong reason to break that trend.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will find small reasons to continue that trend. I think that's what we're seeing now. So then with that, let's move ahead into the next story of the day.
When we talk about investing and stuff, where do we do that? We have to do it through a broker platform. And recently we've been hearing news in multiple areas where Angel One is taking a hit on their revenue or their profits. Even Nithin Kamath.
Nithin Kamath actually came out and tweeted saying that with whatever is happening around in the market, their revenues could get hit by 40 to 50%. I mean, that's nearly 4,000, 5,000 crores if you think about
and
it.
all this is because of the new FNO regulations brought in by SEBI. And there is a panic among even investors. See, currently we are seeing all the discount brokers, they don't take any charges from you if you're investing. But there are speculations around saying maybe you could be charged brokerage for investing.
Yeah.
And if you're in FNO trading, where currently per lot, the brokerage is 20 rupees, can become 3x. So there are so many uncertainties here also. Maybe we should address that.
Yeah, there's the SEBI's report on retail traders losing a lot of money in trading. So 93% of traders losing money. That report specifically says that charges is also a reason why some percentage of traders are losing money. So charges again is primarily brokerage. So I think the concern is real if brokerage is to be increased among brokers.
Yeah, we are also very empathetic. I think even for us and the trading community, STT increasing and then brokerage, it's not a good sign, right? Because we are already fighting to be profitable. On top of that, we don't want to get hit by charges. And also, okay, that's one side. We as a retail community trying to understand or do what's good for the trading community. And on the other side, there are all these listed broking or stocks in the space. Let's take BSE. Let's take CDSL. Let's take
Angel One.
Listed companies, right? Like IIFL Securities or
Angel One is listed.
Angel One, like you said.
They've all rallied by quite a lot over the last few years.
And because these are companies that investors know because they use it, obviously, they have been investors in these stocks and enjoyed while those stocks moved up. So now that concern is also real. So I think this topic warrants to be discussed because two reasons. One is, hey, will brokerage increase? If brokerage is increasing, then my returns will reduce as an investor and trader. Two is, hey, I'm investors in a lot of these stocks. Will these stocks have really bad times coming up ahead? And that's why I think we should.
So let's try to understand the two major regulations that have come in and affected the broking industry right now.
Number one was the truth to label thing that SEBI came up, nearly 7 months ago, right? So to understand this, you have to understand this very interesting deal which was happening between brokers and the exchange, not SEBI. So exchange said to brokers that, hey, if you make people trade more,
Yeah.
and if your turnover is very high, you can charge your users something called as exchange turnover charges, but we will not charge you so much. We will give you a kickback if you are making them trade more.
Yeah.
So deal is, if the brokers turnover is very high, they do not have to pay so much of charges to the exchange compared to what they are charging the user.
So the larger the broker, the better.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Zerodha, being the India's biggest broker, would benefit a lot from this.
Absolutely, because it was slab based.
Yeah.
So the larger the brokers, the better kickback they were getting from the exchange. For example, if they were charging say 2 rupees from the user as exchange turnover charges, if the broker is large enough, they don't have to pay that 2 rupees to the exchange.
Ah, okay.
They only have to pay maybe 1 rupee or 1 rupee
Okay.
50 paise. I'm just giving some example figures here. So now this was not true to the label.
Yeah.
Because to the investor or the trader, they're saying 2 rupees, but to the exchange, they don't have to pay so much. Or even if they're paying, they're getting kickback for this.
Yeah.
So it was not really nice for investors or traders. So SEBI came in and said that, hey, stop doing this. You have to be true to your label. They asked also exchanges not to give this kickback or slab-based incentives to any brokers.
Around this time, Nithin Kamath also said that this regulation alone will impact the revenue by 10%. Just imagine how much money they were getting from exchange
You're
kickbacks.
speaking about thousands of crores in revenue for a broker like Zerodha here.
I mean, Zerodha even projected or said that they made some 7,000 odd crores profit. So
No, so 9,000 crores of revenue last year and profits of nearly 5,000 crores.
yeah, and if we consider 10% of it, it would be really
That's
huge.
So this was point number one. So this happened first, and then brokers were already worrying that, hey, our revenue is getting hit. And then came the larger rationalization of option trading in India, right? SEBI really wanted less and less people to trade options in India. And we know, we are going through it over the last 1-2 months. We are seeing multiple regulatory hits coming in, which is making people trade less options, right?
Yeah.
Lot size increase, increased margin on the expiry day, and lot other changes that we've been talking about. So now that is another reason. So less people are trading options, and if less people are trading options, obviously the broking companies' revenues could get hit. And again, referencing Nithin Kamath again. This reason, Nithin Kamath said, because of this reason, maybe 40% of revenue hit is what they are projecting.
And it has actually proven to be true. If you check out the FNO turnover on the NSE website, nearly 30 to 40% is the turnover drop, right? Which is in lines with what SEBI was projecting, in line with what Nithin Kamath was also saying that Zerodha's revenue could drop by.
Yeah, and these regulations, have taken a very big hit on the brokers' revenues. So now that, we are seeing that results are coming out, even Angel One, their Q3 result is out, and their profits, the net profits are down by 35%. That is a
Quarter on
huge
quarter.
number. Quarter
Not-
on
yeah.
quarter.
That is the last quarter where
Yeah.
most of these things came into effect only in December, November and December.
Yeah.
So only mid of the quarter is when the bad things came into effect. Still,
Yeah.
the profit is down by 35%.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think what will be very critical is the current quarter. That is where the real numbers will be out. We'll see the real impact of all these changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So revenue of the broking segment in Angel One, it also went down by 10%. That's what we observed.
Yeah.
So let's get back to what is really worrying, right? I mean, Nithin Kamath, again, we are referencing a lot of him in this story. But again, he has been warning about broking companies' revenue dropping and giving an early signal that these broking companies could think about increasing their brokerage. And we also saw a lot of these popular zero brokerage platforms who kind of committed that we'll always, for lifetime, forever, give zero brokerage not only on delivery trades,
Yeah.
but also on FNO trades.
Yeah.
There were companies like that. I'm not taking names here. They actually went back on their promises and they have rolled out pricing plans or they have started charging you on transactions. So that's very interesting. So things are changing. So the larger question again is, will the regular discount brokers, which is 20 rupees per order, will that go to 30 rupees per order, 50 rupees per order? So that is what is being discussed.
So let me correct you. Those are not our regular brokers. Those are our discount brokers again.
Right.
Regular brokers are still charging way too high.
Yeah. So again, interestingly, things have turned around where discount brokers are the new regular brokers.
Yeah.
So when we said Angel One's revenue is dropping, I want the audience to do this exercise. I want you to open a screener or a ticker tape. Go check out Angel One's revenue from 2020 or 21. to what it is in this current quarter. They're making more than 3x the revenue per quarter.
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, it has jumped by that much. So I think that it's mostly the quarter-on-quarter number is made to look so alarming, and they're trying to increase brokerage by no matter what, right? I think that's the mindset they're going with.
Yeah, so people are speculating a tripling of brokerage from 20 per order. It could even go to 60 per order and stuff like that. And probably brokerage coming for delivery trades. That is your normal investing. And also maybe a lot more regular mutual funds to be pushed so that these brokers could make money from mutual funds. So today, because most of these discount brokers are selling direct mutual funds, they are not making any money from that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of these changes are being pitched. But hey, to be very honest, what I am thinking is, why should they be even doing this? Because like Ajay said, all of their revenue skyrocketed. That's the word. Skyrocketed over the last 3-4 years. Their profit went up so much. They made a lot of money already. They're still making a lot of money. Almost all of them are operating at near 50% PAT margin. I mean, that is crazy.
So-
I'm thinking, why should they even be making so
But
much profit?
But I don't really think that a brokerage tripling could occur, because if you're looking at the large players who are trading near the freeze limit, 1200 quantity is the freeze limit today in Nifty, right? And they'll continue to do or trade at the same level despite the lot changes and everything. But they might trade less because of all the regulations on ELM kicking in, everyday expiry, including Bank Nifty expiry going away. So lot size increasing. For big players, they'll still get the same revenue because it's per order. For small players, again, they might lose out their revenue. We don't know what's the percentage of that. Hopefully, it's not a large percentage. But on the other side, the FNO revenues could come down because of the ELM as well as the number of expiries going down.
I think brokers are just waiting out on this quarter. As we said, in this quarter that we are currently in is the very important one for them, because the numbers of this would dictate their decision. But also at the same time, I think the industry is kind of headed and led by Zerodha.
Yeah.
So if Zerodha doesn't make a move, I don't think other brokers would also
Dare to?
yeah, exactly. So they would really be observing what Zerodha is doing. If Zerodha is not increasing, then other brokers will be slightly scared to make a move.
Yeah. So if corporate greed doesn't kick in, I think the brokers, like Sharik said, they've made so much money over the last multiple years, and they're operating at a crazy operating margin percentage. So I think if corporate greed does not kick in, the brokers will not increase their brokerage. And we know that Zerodha, or they say to not be driven by this corporate greed. That's what they paint themselves to be, right? So if they stay true to that, I don't know if they will, right? The brokerages in the industry might remain the same because they'll always be scared of the giant in the room. Or if Zerodha is also changing, I think a huge shift in the industry is going to happen.
But again, Zerodha were the people who actually brought down the brokerage cost by a lot. They were the revolutionaries in this brokerage industry. So I just hope that they don't come up and increase and shoot the prices a lot.
So you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
So speaking about heroes, Geo Finance is supposed to enter the broking industry, and maybe that is another, maybe a pivotal moment in Indian broking industry's history, completely, where Geo could come and disrupt it. If say, hypothetically, Zerodha is increasing to 30 rupees per order or whatever, maybe then we might enter a new era where Geo Finance is coming in with much reduced brokerage and the kind of disruption that Zerodha did back in mid of 2010s. So maybe what if such a disruption
I'll
could
give
happen?
you a small indication before taking it to the third story. Who did the true to label affect the most? It affected the large players,
Yeah.
right? And what did it enable? It enabled small players to enter the industry, level the playing field for new players to come into the broking industry. So there is a conspiracy actually running that True to Label was heavily focused on Ambani and Geo Finance launching their broking wing, right?
But
And-
again, maybe I don't want Zerodha or even Geo Finances to become a duopoly again, and how Geo and Airtel are now dominating the telecom sector, increasing the prices by a lot. Maybe they'll disrupt the whole market, and from where we started, the regular broking houses charging high and discount brokers coming in, and Sharik rightly mentioned, maybe these new discount brokers are the regular brokers.
Yeah.
I don't want them to emerge and dominate and squeeze out all people's money through investing mutual funds. I just don't want to be in that world anymore.
So speaking of conspiracies, I would like to move into the third story of the week, which is An unfortunate situation for retail traders all across the world. I would say they were termed as a backstabber or a villain of the story, but in my opinion, they were a strong hero. It is Hindenburg Research officially closing down.
You're putting out strong statements, Ajay.
Yeah.
Because Hindenburg Research has always been looked at like a villain
Yep.
at times from an Indian investor's or a trader's perspective. Because the very little thing that people in India know about Hindenburg Research is, hey, they tell bad things about Adani, then Adani falls, and then Nifty falls, and we as investors and traders face the heat because of that.
Famously quoted as the notorious short sellers of Indian markets, and they publish some report and make hell lot of money by shorting stocks and making our markets crash.
They were always looked at with a bad light.
Yeah.
They are bad people, short selling, telling bad things about Indian government, about SEBI's chairperson, and our favorite Adani, right? And making things. Bad things happen in the Indian market and them benefiting from it. So the bad people are benefiting by short selling.
But let's try to actually understand who was Hindenburg Research and what did they actually do?
Very, very interesting story here. When the news came out that they are shutting down is when we also in office, we actually went into their website and started to read and try to understand more about who they actually were. Because from an Indian investors and traders perspective, they were always the bad people.
Yeah.
Hindenburg Research is the bad people who are telling bad things about India and Indian companies and short selling and benefiting from that.
Yeah.
That was always looked at from a bad light. Obviously, like short sellers telling bad things and then benefiting from the same narrative that they are putting out.
Yeah.
But when I now look into Hindenburg Research, that is what you said in the beginning is coming out. They are actually saviors of the market. They're trying to do good things for the market. So the very interesting term about who Hindenburg Research is, they're activist short sellers.
Okay.
Which means that they want to actually understand what is bad in certain companies and call it out because they are activists. They want to call out the bad things for the good of humanity, for the good of the investors, for the good of the capital markets everywhere. And while they call those bad things out, they are expecting these companies to do bad, and obviously they also want to benefit from it.
Yeah.
So they are activists primarily and they're short sellers secondarily. So they're doing good for the ecosystem and obviously they're benefiting from that also.
So this explains why this Hindenburg reports, whenever they come out with any report, it is mostly negative and only negative. And this explains why, because they are the activists trying to save the retailers.
So all this negative stuff that they talk about companies was looked at least or misinterpreted by thinking that they are telling this negative things so that they can short sell and make money.
Yeah.
That is not the point. They are telling this negative things because they really want to do that.
Yeah.
And while they say that, because they have so much conviction on what they are saying, they are short selling as well.
Yeah.
So what is very interesting is they are a team of just 11 people. Right? It's just a small team of 11 people based out of the America, and it was founded in 2017. And very interestingly, the name Hindenburg, it's Hindenburg Research,
Yeah.
the name comes out of a disaster called as Hindenburg disaster back in 1930s in the US. So what happened was, so this is very interesting to know because
And relevant.
yeah, because it dictates what they do, what is their ethos and their values. We understand that. So their name comes from Hindenburg disaster back in 1930s in the US when airship which came from Germany, which was trying to land in the US, it caught fire because it was hydrogen powered.
Yeah.
It caught fire. It caught on fire and nearly 35 people died.
Okay.
So their point is that Hindenburg disaster was a man-made disaster. It was known, it was discussed earlier, but this airship company was not really was ignorant about it, and finally the disaster happened.
So sort of like Titanic.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
But their point is, so when there is something bad which is happening, if you do not take an action, those bad things could continue and could create a larger trouble. So if you think
So
about
if
it,
someone had called those people out at that time, right, very strongly,
Yeah.
and made put their money where their mouth was, right? Tried to go against the company legally or something.
some activist,
Yeah.
if they would have done that, this
Yeah.
disaster could have been avoided. So think about that. So these guys named the company after that because they are so moved. That's their values or philosophy. So they really want to avoid disasters in the capital market by calling out bad actors, bad companies who are doing fraudulent activities, companies who are running scams. And unfortunately, the company in India which they called out is, I don't know, I wouldn't use fortunate or unfortunate term there. They did their research, and I now have reason to believe that they are activists who are really trying to put out what they think is right. And it's not like they're targeting Adani here.
Yeah.
Right? They've done it for multiple companies around the globe, primarily in the US. There are some interesting numbers there as well, right?
Yeah. The Securities and Exchange Commission in the US has taken fraud charges against more than 60 people based on Hindenburg's research. So imagine that. They're doing some things right. I wouldn't say everything right, but they're doing something right and creating an impact across the world.
So they have a hit rate of 80%. That is, in their existence of 8 years, they had put out research of bad stuff being done by companies on 63 companies.
Okay.
Out of those 63 companies, 51 companies actually moved down a lot, which kind of means that whatever research they came up with was correct.
Yeah, 63 companies plus Madhavi Puri Butch, an
Yeah,
individual.
correct.
And the person is still the SEBI chair. So 0% hit rate there.
So one thing where Indians get emotional about, Hindenburg Research and targeting India, they have to understand they're just not targeting India. They put out across these researches throughout the world. So they'll see if any country or any stock or any person is doing some shady stuff, and if they have reasons to believe that they are not right, they'll just flag it. And in that process, because they fundamentally researched about certain companies, they have right to believe that the companies will do bad, and they're benefiting out from the research that they have made.
Yeah, so what's interesting is Adani was Asia's richest man when Hindenburg decided to go against him. Similarly, they went against Elon Musk when he was trying to purchase Twitter, right? And it's said that they apparently made a lot of money because in their website, actually we'll link it in the description down below, they've very clearly said which all are the positions they've taken, which all were the results or reports they published on which date and what happened after that. They've clearly said it. And even about the Elon Musk Twitter whole deal, right? They took multiple positions. First, they took a short position, closed that. Then they took a long position against Elon Musk, right? And they made money on that too. So they often go against the big names. And I think that is one of the silent reasons why they're shutting down. Let's get to that point, right? That going against these super rich, super influential people is always not easy, either monetarily or even psychologically.
Yeah, and these big people will put a lot of pressure on this. Again, like Sharik said, there are just 11 people operating from maybe a small office. And, these big giants with, thousands of employees, governments under them, funding organizations. And when you, point your fingers out at these very big influential people, they're not going to sit calm and, take a step back and say, okay, we'll fight with those big, large entities, because there would be emotionally draining. They will be financially affected also, because if there are any legal notices that they have to run. But very unfortunate, that these people are, shutting down. And I believe maybe this is like a loss to the humanity or a mankind, or the savior of the retailers
capital
is
market
gone.
ecosystem of the entire globe.
Yeah.
But that is where the news of Hindenburg Research shutting down is very, very interesting, right? Because they are shutting down after they publish strong reports on Adani.
Adani.
So
Yeah.
those conspiracies are getting discussed. And also, they've put out a public article of sorts as to explaining, hey, why are we shutting down? And that article is all around the place. It is too vague. You cannot make
It's so
anything out of
funny,
it.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, right? They're saying, hey, all of our investigations are done now.
Done.
Yeah, whatever was happening is done.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of stress in life. There's a lot of stuff happening. We've made good enough money as well.
Yeah.
And now I need to spend time with my friends and family. And hey, we are stopping.
I have
That does sound slightly.
Yeah, and it's also just 4 or 5 days prior to Donald Trump coming in and swearing in as a US president,
Yeah.
right? So there is all sorts of conspiracies. Them going against Elon Musk, not going to sit well with the new administration. Trump and Elon Musk actually being in the same mindset as Modi and Adani, right? They're actual huge capitalists. I'm not saying it in a bad way. That might not sit well again if Hindenburg tries to go against them again, right? So all of these problems combined, I'm sure some under the table threats maybe, right? All these combined leading to a very unfortunate situation. I think investigative journalism and stuff like this, activistic movements, and they are actually putting their money where their mouth is. I think that is the thing that retailers around the world will definitely miss.
Anyways, it was very, very interesting, at least while it lasted. But if you actually take a step back and think about it, hey, it was just one guy and a group of friends and people who worked out of a small office somewhere in the USA who really wanted to do great research about companies who are doing scammy and fraudulent stuff and put out those reports out in the public for the public to see and be wary and cautious about these scammy companies, and they also try to make some money out of it. Again, great while it lasted. They are no more. Bye Hindenburg. Thank you for all the fun you provided. Fun worry. I mean, there were overnight positions we also held, and Hindenburg Research was out and we were also worried. So they, again, a small team operating out of a small place back in the US, but the impact they created, forget the entire globe. In India, the waves they send across the trading ecosystem,
the shiver they've created.
Absolutely.